They told her she was fired. They called us and said we had to come pick her up immediately and that she could not come back. Hey everybody, it's Val from Autistic Interpretations. It's time for another Q&A. On today's Q&A, I'm going to address the question that I've received numerous times. Did Jess participate in a vocational or employment program? So yes, of course she did. I'd like to say that she wasn't raised to be a princess. I mean, she is one now, but figuring out what Jess wanted to do with her life is not a mystery. She's wanted to be a caregiver since she was somewhere in her middle teens. She had an extended family member who she was close to, that she liked to go help take care of and spend time with. And that's kind of, I think, where some of that came from originally. And then in the future we had, beyond that, we had some other family members with ailments. We had elderly grandparents. And I think Jessica just is one of those people who is kind, caring, compassionate, and wants to make people feel better. That's her favorite thing in the world, is to pat, soothe, sweet talk, and love on somebody to make them feel better. So for me, I just viewed the vocational program as our opportunity to hone in on something that's an interest for her. While she's in school, they have what's called community-based vocational education. And Jess participated in that. They would go out into the community and work on things like wiping down tables, and they even sometimes went to the bowling alley and wiped off tables and stuff. But what Jessica's favorite thing to do was to help the teacher or the parapro with the other students that had profound needs. Jessica liked to be with them, helping take care of them, helping feed them. So even in the scenarios where they went out in the community, she still kind of reverted into that caregiver role. Outside of that kind of community-based vocational education, when she was in her last couple of years, she worked with vocational rehabilitation. That's within the Department of Labor. So they came to a meeting at the school, and it was very challenging. There were a lot of communication barriers. We had to really work with them because they like to talk in circles and not give straight answers about budgets and their programs and stuff. The first step for them is to do an assessment, so a vocational assessment or a work assessment, and they subcontracted that task out to Goodwill. Goodwill had a new program they were trying to build at the time, where they were working with high school students. The first part of the program was actually a work evaluation. The difference between a work evaluation and a vocational evaluation is that a work evaluation, the main question to be answered is, can this client do meaningful work? A vocational evaluation is more about what type of work would suit this individual. So I'm going to read this list. On a work evaluation, they look at things like attendance and punctuality, effort, physical stamina, perseverance, teamwork and cooperation, social behavior, dependability, ability to accept criticism, ability to accept supervision, attention to detail, neatness in work performed, care with materials and property, and emotional stability, meeting work schedules, initiative, and safety awareness. So that part of the evaluation lasted 10 days, and it included them observing Jessica in her community-based education, as well as training and observation at Goodwill's facility. Jessica's first day at Goodwill, they trained her on folding bundles of price tag tickets. So for the Goodwill stores, where they label clothing and stuff. So Jessica made bundles of 100 price tag tickets, and I don't know how they did 100. I'm sure they had some kind of key or something, because she wouldn't have been able to count out 100. And that was it, folding tickets all day. So she folded tickets for 2.5 days. And sometime after the half of the third day, they pulled her aside to try to administer a test, a cognitive test for the blind, which they were not able to do because all she could talk about was worrying about getting back to work. It really wasn't about getting back to work. It was about getting back to the person that she was working with, that she had already kind of developed this unhealthy fixation on. They gave up on the test and put her in a different workplace where they taught her to place, this was how it was written out, rubber gaskets within cast iron flanges. So very meaningful work. Wouldn't you say, Marlow?
No. Yeah.
Something real easy to carry over into the real world. So on the fourth day, they taught her a new task of putting 4 plastic inch-long tubes into a plastic bag. And then you put that bag in the bin. She did that for day 4, day 5, and day 6. Inch-long tubes into a plastic bag, the bag into the bin. On day 6, in the second half of the day, she got into trouble for throwing water. So she threw a cup of water at somebody, I guess. Probably because she was so bored that she was about to not survive. On day 7, for the first half of the day, Jess couldn't concentrate and do anything because somebody that had been riding the bus, this vocational bus, to the Goodwill site wasn't on the bus. It's this person that she had developed this fixation on. So all day she worried about that person. Eventually they moved Jessica into somebody's office because she couldn't work in the work setting. They moved her into an office so that she could, guess what? Fold tickets. More tickets. And then on the last day, the evaluation of the last day, the note said she was in a good mood while working on folding tickets. So her written evaluation of the work assessment, this is what it said. During her exit interview, Jess constantly repeated that she wanted to be a nurse and help people, which is exactly what folding tickets translates into, am I right? On her summary of findings, Jess, and it said this in quotes, Jess would become obsessed with an issue and be unable to concentrate upon the task. So that last sentence about being stuck on an issue and unable to concentrate, that's really the bottom line about anything we can talk about when it comes to vocational training, job training, work training, opportunities and all that. They also talked about Jess had demonstrated several serious work behavior issues, which included staying on task, throwing objects, emotional outburst, and inappropriate social behavior of clinging. And then they wrote that Jessica's multiple barriers to employment suggest the need for long-term support in daily living and employment. But somehow, through all that, they decided that Jess was capable of competitive employment, so that she could go into their 6 or 7 week vocational evaluation training. By them saying she was capable of that, then, they got the contract from Voc Rehab to do the vocational evaluation and training. So they somehow managed to work through vocational evaluation with Jessica. I would have liked to have seen that. But the results of her evaluation showed her top interest areas being accommodating, which is serving others, usually on one-to-one basis, and humanitarian, which means helping others with their mental, spiritual, social, physical, or vocational needs. We know that. We've known that about Jessica. We still know that about Jessica. It's very obvious those are her top interests. At the bottom of the scale of her interest, it included physical performing, as in like physical manual kind of labor, industrial, obviously, and plants and animals. So if we want to talk about plants and animals for just a minute, the main thing about plants and animals that's a problem for Jessica is she's tactile defensive. So if you don't know what tactile defensiveness is, let me read what it is. It refers to a pattern of observable behavioral and emotional responses which are averse, negative, and out of proportion to certain types of tactile stimulation that most people wouldn't be bothered by. So it's a sensory dysfunction where the brain's inability to process that information like the rest of us. And so for her, the feel of fur, a paw, a scratch from an animal, all major aversions for her, as is touching a plant, the leaf, the stem, the dirt, grass, all of it. I explain that because on this day of her evaluation, not her evaluation, but after they evaluated and figured out, hey, she likes helping others and she doesn't like plants and animals, one of the first job sites was at a farm harvesting vegetables and, for example, shucking corn. So Jess doesn't harvest vegetables, nor does she have the fine motor skills to shuck corn. So when that didn't work out, they tried giving her a job of delivering the corn to the people who were shucking it. Okay, so this assignment was outside, where Jessica cannot see when she's outside in an unfamiliar environment. And since she's carrying corn, she can't use her cane. And then she has like very little attention span when she's doing that type of thing. So obviously carrying corn to the shuckers didn't work. Go figure. So another job site was at, guess where, Marlow? The zoo. The zoo.
This is frustrating me.
I know. It was ridiculous. So I'm pretty sure Jessica was supposed to be shoveling mulch or doing something mulch related at the zoo. But since Jessica doesn't have the fine motor skills or gross motor skills to use a shovel, can't see when she's outside, and had zero interest in touching mulch, that really didn't work out either. So she didn't work that day. And so that was the theme of the day, that Jessica wouldn't do her work. And then other than that, on some days they did some work in the retail section of their business. I bet she got to fold more tickets. And around week 4, it was in the morning, and a group of the members of this class, if you want to call it a class, training class, were gathered in a room waiting on instructors to arrive so they could have a meeting, group meeting. Jess had no supervision. She had no one there to assist her with mobility, with questions, with interacting. She had no protection from other people, if you want to look at that way. So according to witnesses, Jessica got upset and began pacing around the back of the room. And eventually she had a meltdown and raised up her cane and whacked it down on the back of a chair real hard. And thankfully, the person in the chair didn't get hit. But, that was just very lucky. So instead of them seeing it as a teaching moment or doing some of the reflection of their program to figure out what wasn't working and how they could make it work better, like not leaving a blind and autistic trainee unattended in such a setting, Jess was fired. And I'm not being dramatic. Yes, fired. They told her she was fired. They called us and said we had to come pick her up immediately and that she could not come back, that she was out of the program. It was frustrating and sad, but mainly heartbreaking to me personally. It just broke my heart. It was just devastating that, all Jessica's life, she didn't fit in anywhere. And then she gets fired from a training program. For their lack, anyway, I won't get stuck on it, but anyway, it was heartbreaking. But if you want to go back and really look at the biggest issue or the biggest thing that got pointed out in this program is, and it wasn't news to us, but Jessica's inability to socialize appropriately is a major factor that holds her back in everyday life. And by that, I'm talking about her tendency to fixate on people. And, when she's fixated on somebody, let me explain this a little bit so people can kind of understand what we mean. What's hard for some people, and I have people reach out to me and say, oh, I'd love to be that for Jessica. She can call me anytime. She can whatever, anytime. She just cares about them, the person, them. And she wants everything to stay the same. She wants their job to stay the same, their house to stay the same, the schedule to stay the same. She doesn't want them to be sick. She doesn't want them to move. And she fears any major change, because any major change could take them away from her forever. And that's her main concern. Then they become absent in her life forever. So when she fears this is happening, she has an all-out anxiety and panic attack. And that affects everyone around her, including us, all the time, her grandparents, her caregivers, cousins, friends, because it's a major, 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 major issue. And we've tried to come up with a way to manage it, cope with it, like some kind of key to teaching other people, okay, if this happens, do this. And there's not one specific thing. It depends on the day, it depends on the mood, the time of the year, what else is going on, a million things. So we just have to adjust. There's no one solution. It's not as simple as saying, well, instead of talking to this person, call that person. That doesn't help. It's not as simple as redirecting to a different conversation of, guess what we're going to do tomorrow? Guess what I have for lunch? Or guess what, blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't help. She's stuck on this other thing. And if we've been in the past, in our lifetime, when we've been at occasions where some of these people, and then I mean specific people, over the years that she's been attached to like this, there have been times when we have to remove ourselves from the occasion, because it is her stress levels through the roof, mine's through the roof, and it's like she's so stuck to these people, they can't get away, they can't mingle, and if you try to keep her from them, she just gets frantic. And so it's very difficult, it's very sad. And there's times that I didn't want to leave a situation, but I had to, because it's just what had to happen. So if you take that whole concept of being stuck on somebody and think about it in a work situation, work training, daily work, whatever your job is, if your focus is on a person, and did they show up? Did they not show up? Are they sick? Are they not sick? Are they ever coming back? Will I ever see them again? And we can't change that. That is one of the reasons that she is not employable. And I think some people will have a hard time accepting that as an answer or as an explanation. And that's okay. If you don't understand it, if you don't accept it, you don't have to. It is reality for us. Something regular to go do something meaningful, whether it was volunteer or get paid, and then that didn't work out, and all the things that never worked out were always because of her anxiety and this tendency to get fixated on people. So eventually Jessica was dismissed from Voc Rehab, and basically over time it's just been determined that she's not capable of competitive employment. And all of those reasons are also the reasons why she cannot regularly volunteer in a particular place. I'm going to do a different video about the question people have asked, has she ever participated in an adult day center? And I've got a story to tell about that. We've tried it. It didn't work out. That is why Jessica is here during the day. It is why I quit my job to stay home and care for her. It's why we have what's called a self-directed waiver. So Jessica's day program is a program we designed for her. It's what we schedule for her, what we figure out for her, what works best for her in her environment to minimize her stress and anxiety, work with her in a way that's best for her. So we tried. Yes, she's had training. Yes, she's been involved in a vocational employment program. She got fired. It's very upsetting. So I'm sure people might have questions. I can imagine some what ifs, this, and suggestions about this and that. And you're welcome to make suggestions. You're welcome to ask questions. We are not looking for suggestions or helpful hints, and we're not going to go through all that again. We've traveled that road. We're done with that road. Here we are. So anyway, take it or leave it. That's the answer. I hope this helps somebody somewhere. This is just like one of the ongoing in her lifetime trying to make things work where things didn't work out. This is just one avenue of that. There have been many. And I'm going to start making videos to talk about it and just let people know what the path has been like. So that was more than 10 years ago when all that happened. How old is Jess now? So that's about 12 years ago, I guess. So anyway, thanks for listening to me ramble. I'll do another one soon. Bye.